Good morning, everybody. Or morning. What am I talking about? Good evening, everybody. Holy cow, I don't even know what time of day it is. Anyway, guys, I'm a little bit under the weather today, but nevertheless, you know what? I had to be here for this. We got Thomas Sewid on with us tonight. You know, he's an amazing guy, really is. I got to meet with him two weeks ago for the first time, actually in person. And let me tell you, this guy knows everything. We've had him on the show before. Anything to do with Sasquatch, he's got it down pat, I'm telling you. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and welcome everybody in this evening, first of all, before we get into it, all right, with Thomas. He's got a lot of recent reports to talk about and some other things going on in the Olympics that we're going to get into, okay? So we got Kitty Cat Whack, of course, in the gold medal position. Yeah, race fan. I think you were muscled out this time, buddy. Welcome in. Thank you very much for showing up. We got Road Flare. Mr. Road Flare 655. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here for this. Cosmic Joe Chronicles, of course, who is hell here. You know what I'm noticing? It's kind of strange, but everybody's kind of changed their pictures. I'm going through and like, I don't recognize these people. Wait a minute. You guys have changed. But anyway, we got Mel WD40 in the house. We got Cosmic Joe, like I said before. We got Elysium. And we've got Minka. Anyway, welcome to the show. And I know many more will be popping on shortly here. But let me go ahead and run this intro because this is a little bit different. This is not the same intro that I've been running for the past year. Something has changed. What is going on? Anyway, let me throw myself in the back and you're about to experience something new. All right. So we've got Mr. Thomas and myself here now. So that was a very short, very new intro, but I'm happy to share it with you all. So just remember, I am feeling a little bit under the weather. I'm sorry about that, but here we go. So Thomas, welcome to the show, and I know that you're going to be coming on once a month. From here on out, well, as long as you will come on the show. And I'm excited to hear about what's going on out there in the Olympic Mountains recently.
Well, thanks for inviting me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So what is new and recent out there? I know that you have a lot of people coming out there to explore the Olympics and learn more about Sasquatch and the Tunaha out there. And I am happy to have you on the show. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, the monsoons finally arrived here on the Olympic Peninsula, Washington State, rainiest city in the southern 48. And it came biblical yesterday and today. It's a little drying right now, but it's supposed to come again tonight. But I've been doing expeditions. I work here in SasquatchLegend.com, the store in Forks and largest museum in North America on Sasquatch. And behind me, my buddy Biggie. Him and I greet people all day long, get pictures taken in front of them. And for the Element 115, I thought, what better backdrop than to have a big Sasquatch. And over here, you'll see the mask, Chunachwa, the Sasquatch in my Kwakwakiwak tribe from northern Vancouver Island. My wife actually dances that mask and regalia and another one when we do conferences at Sasquatch conferences. And after hours and on my days off, I like to do expeditions. I basically get people, I advertise, and people will email me and phone me, and we'll line up a time for them to come here to Forks. They'll actually stay in an Airbnb next door to me that we decorate all up with Sasquatch merchandise. So everything from your linens to your bath towels to the pictures, cups, even your tumbler you take out in field, one of my designs on it. And we just fill that Airbnb up with Sasquatch stuff. If you're going to come do a Sasquatch expedition, well, you might as well have Sasquatch day and night and every part of your experience. And I'll bring them out into the forest, to the beaches at low tide at night. One of the things my team out here has acquired is about over $40,000 worth of more night vision equipment. We have heat scopes that you can see quarter-mile elk and deer, and hopefully it will light up a Sasquatch. We have those helicopter night vision scopes that you can put on, and it just brings the darkness into daylight. So I like to tell people Sasquatch don't stand a chance if they come near us. So we're going to light them up, put our cell phone or video recorder on the lens and record it. And one of the things I do with my guests, clients, is I make them sign a contract that they'll get one of the shares if and when we bag and tag good video, audio, still pictures. And, if it's really good and, it sells, then they also get a share of any royalties or revenue that's generated. But, main thing about my expeditions that makes me very unique in North America, aka Sasquatch Island, that's what I call North America, is I lived in bush for decades. I was a grizzly bear and other animal hunting guide for over 20 years in coastal British Columbia. I was a commercial fisherman for 45 years, and I would travel the entire British Columbia coast, going places where most humans will never go. And I remember one time, one of the crewmen doing dishes were taking shelter from a blow that was coming through a storm. And so we slept in, we had breakfast, and he's doing dishes. All of a sudden, he's like, "Hey, look, I thought it was a bear. It's a bloody Sasquatch, two of them on the beach harvesting shellfish at low tide." We looked out, grabbed the binoculars, and sat back down. We didn't want to disturb them. And, that's all of the encounters I had in my life living out in the bush. It was always like that. It was just no big deal. It's just the Sasquatch, Chunacha. Um, See them from time to time, smell them quite a bit, and hear them at night when you're on a beach at low tide, middle of the night with a headlamp and a lantern digging for shellfish. We do it commercially and for food. And, when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're on a beach at low tide and there's no wind, no rain, and all of a sudden you hear that tree snap or a break or a whoop or a tree being pushed down, the Sasquatches are around. Hair on the back of your neck would stand up, but they never bothered us. We just let them be.
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing too. I've never felt threatened where I've been at. Typically, I go towards Mount Adams or Mount Baker for Sasquatch activity, but I've never felt threatened. It always felt very like they were very curious about what we were doing.
Yeah, 3 times though, it got dicey for me. I got chased out of my sea kayak camp in 2006 by 3 or 4 very aggressive ones. Me and my sister and 2 of my workers, and we're out hunting one time, and we at nighttime, and we lit up a moose, and we were moving in to stalk it, but they were stalking it too, and they let it be known to us that that moose was theirs, not ours, and we basically were back to back with our rifles, feet and getting back to the boat on the beach. And You never seen three guys get a boat that was dried up from low tide back into the water so quick, and that thing had a 60 horse Merc on it, 18-foot aluminum, and we got it
Yeah.
in the water and got out of there.
Yeah, I remember you saying beware the rogue Sasquatch. You've said that quite often.
Oh yeah, I had one encounter with a rogue. I call him Crease. I lived off northeastern Vancouver Island out in my tribal territories at Amamedeha tribe of the Kwakwaka'wakw. And I did an ecotourism operation for my tribe 1990, 91. Then they pulled funding 92. So I took over and I would do these walking narrative tours through the fallen totem poles, the big pillars from our ancient big houses called Kuksis, and all this history written about my village. It's known famously as Mama Lalakula, Village of the Last Potlatch. So I lived out there in a 26-foot trailer we brought in with a 10 by 10 addition. I got spooked out of that bay behind the village by myself, staying in that little trailer. So I moved into the village into my grandfather's abandoned 3-story house with no windows, no doors. And I lived in there in the summer and did the tours during the day. And I'd go exploring. And I remember one fall I went to an island called Crease Island, and all of a sudden I ran into a rogue. I didn't see it, but I had 5, 6 foot long rotten hemlock, broken trunks of trees thrown at me, hitting the standing timber and shrapnel going everywhere. And I knew right then and there that it was a aggressive Sasquatch. So you're not going to shoot it because it's against my tribal beliefs and culture. So I was getting the hell out of that island, running through the timber, and all I kept thinking as I heard these rocks and logs being thrown towards me, but not at me, was I
Right.
hope when I pop through the trees, my boat's right there, because I didn't know where it was on the beach, roughly in the forest. And sure enough, when I popped out onto the rocky beach, I looked to my right and there was my speedboat 60 feet away. I'm like, oh, thank God. Cut the line, jumped in, pushed off, got the hell out of there. And you could hear him in there just woofing. And you could tell he was big and he was mean. And, we got a couple other reports from that rogue Sasquatch throwing logs at a boat anchored out, or one big driftwood, and smashing the door and ripped the hinges off of a fish boat. A couple tourists were walking up one of the islands next to it, and they came across a very aggressive Sasquatch. So I called him Crease, and he's a rogue. He's definitely something upstairs has snapped, and through the years of working with bush and getting to understand Sasquatch more, I've realized that we humans, because I went through it in 2008 when my wife, mother of my children, pointed at the door and told me to get the beep out. I knew that me being an Indian and the mother of my children being a non-Indian female social worker, I didn't have a snowflake's chance in hell of ever having my kids under my roof again until they were adults. And that came to be because social workers take our children and police take our parents. That's what we Indians say in North America. So when I left, I got back to Vancouver Island because we'd moved up to Queen Charlotte Islands, known as Haida Gwaii, off the northern west coast of British Columbia. And after 8 months living there with my kids and her, I returned to Vancouver Island, my homelands, and I had my Jeep Cherokee with all my bush possessions, my carving tools, my fishing rods and gear, my rifles and shotguns, and my clothes, and $11 in my pocket.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was on the verge of going postal. I wanted to hunt the two guys that sued me for $640,000 down. But when I pulled into Campbell River, there was a motel, and the Christian manager used to always put a monthly quote up on the board, and it said, "Success is not defined on how high you reach, but how high you bounce when you've hit rock bottom."
There you
And I
go.
knew I was at my rock bottom, and I chose that night to bounce, and I've been bouncing ever since. But I know what it's like for a Sasquatch because the bush creators code is when you have pack clan animals, a younger, more stronger male will topple the alpha male. It's to strengthen the species, the genetic pool. So when that head clan leader Sasquatch gets toppled, it can't be with its wife. It can't be with its children. It can't be in its territories no more because he's lost it. Well, those ones, some of them, I think, they go solitary and they take another mate and form another clan. But some of them snap, they go postal. And that's when the rage and fury comes up, like we hear when someone goes through what I went through, losing your kids and your money and everything you built up. And that's when they grab a gun and go postal and shoot people. And that is a rogue, hairless bipedal. But the Sasquatches, the big hairy ones, when they snap and go crazy, they go rogue and they get bigger, more aggressive. And a lot of run ins with that rogue Sasquatch, you end up being in David Paulides' missing 411 journals.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Is I've had some very large rocks thrown down on a railroad grade out in front of me and hitting trees near me and that sort of thing, bouncing because they were trying to get down to the swampy area to get to some of the roots and the tubers and stuff that were down there in the swamp, and they just wanted me out of the way. But to think about having a rogue coming across the road is a scary thing for sure.
It's a scary thing for sure.
Scary. There's one on Vancouver Island. Apparently, a native hunter shot it in the left eye, and his brother was telling me about it. I'm glad I didn't meet his brother who shot it because he's a fool. But anyway, been hearing reports in the last 5 years throughout Vancouver Central, East, and West of a very aggressive, large, one-eyed, cinnamon chocolate brownish covered Sasquatch, and that's that rogue.
Yeah. I've also seen those trees that have been flipped upside down with the root balls sticking up out of the ground. And that kind of thing is, I can't even imagine the kind of power that takes to send one of those trees into the ground like that.
I've seen one picture that I will agree was because they did the backstory. He actually did a speed video of him walking out from that upturned tree in the ground with root ball up above. And the tree was probably, I'd say, 18 inches in diameter at the trunk. And when he walked out, it took him, he said, 38 minutes to get to the logging room. And he was out mushroom picking and hunting at the same time. And he came across that. But it was neat because he went to what do you call it? Google, what's that? Earth one. But anyway, he went to Google Earth and he looked and showed where that tree was. It was in the junction up on top of a hill with 4 logging slashes around it, which are rich in foods, berries, roots, rodents, deer, elk, other animals, and water. And when I Google Earthed it, I was looking at it going, okay, that's a boundary marker. It's telling other Sasquatches that, okay, this area is occupied. Continue to move on or vocalize so we can parlay, and maybe we'll let you harvest and stick around for a few days. But the majority of them I've seen, especially the one in Alaska, you could tell because I used to help build logging roads back in the late 80s and early 90s. You can see the greater pea gravel, the edging along the road, and you can see the flat gravel with greenery. And there's that big Alaskan root ball sticking up. And behind it, it's all logging slash. You can see the stumps, the second growth trees. And then when I was watching one of the TV shows that were up there, you could see on one frame a grapple mark in the middle of that tree. And then they made sure they didn't show it again. And the majority of the ones that you see like that, you'll see grapple machine marks on the trunk of the thing. You'll see evidence of a logging road and logging slash. And especially the ones where you see a power saw cut stump and a rock or two piled on top. Some of those rocks over 1,000 pounds. That is not Sasquatch. That's a bored logger, probably lit up a hoolie, and now he's sitting there playing Tonka toys, digging a hole, shoving a tree upside down, and piling boulders on top of stumps. And the reason they do that is so they don't hit that boulder and throw a track. So if it's elevated on the stump, they can see it when they're moving about. So tell people, don't be gullible and jump to the conclusion that everything's made by Sasquatch. And the majority of times it's made by us hairless bipedals.
That's right. I've seen that too in off logging roads where they'll take a boulder and they'll stick it on a stump. And I
Yeah.
realized that that's not Sasquatch. That's the guys or the men that are working that slash pile. Just getting it up and out of the way so that they're not, like you're saying, hit a track or whatever and go
Yeah.
slide
Throw a track.
throw a
You
track.
don't want to throw a track. You get sweat in every crease and crevice in your body when trying to put a track back on.
Well, I haven't had to do that, thankfully. Even being in construction, we haven't thrown tracks, so that's good. But so out on the peninsula lately, what's been going on out there?
So I've had three people, a couple 2 weeks ago, and a lady about in her mid 30s a month ago that wanted to come on an expedition with me. So I charge 375 per person, all inclusive. That means that includes their accommodation, their three meals, beverages. I make sure there's beer and wine in the fridge and juice and pop and things like that. And I cater them. I've been in tourism for decades, so I give them the best experience. But I bring them out in daytime and teach them everything I can, tracking, hopefully finding tracks, and listening and using windage. Windage is key. You've got to learn to always be walking into that wind, because once you get close to a Sasquatch, you're going to be like two fighter jets trying to get the other one in an upwind position. And I teach them all that. And then we usually come home, have dinner, and I like to tell them, maybe have an hour and a half nap, because we're going to be out till 2, 3 in the morning if everything's optimum. And then after our siesta, we head out and get to the places where there's been recent reports or sign of them, tracks and so forth. I got a buddy not 15 minutes down the highway here towards Port Angeles, living in a small town called Beaver. And he's, veteran with PTSD, and he's always outside, can't sleep. So he's outside smoking cigarettes. And he's got an apple
Oh,
tree. His neighbor's got fruit trees. And in the last month and a half, he's been hearing tree knocks, vocalizations, screams. The elk have been pushed out of the timber, and they're in the big field in front of it across the highway from his house. And like I told him, I said, if those elk are in that field, and like the elk here in Forks, if it's hunting season, they're usually in the airport field. And they're there because of the hunters, but also Sasquatch pushing them out of the timber. If I was an elk in a herd, I wouldn't want to be in the timber when there's Sasquatch hunting me. I'd rather be in the open field around, and you'll see them. They'll be right up by the barn and the houses and everything. So sometimes almost 100 elk. And this area is so rich in elk and logging roads. It's just, and the salmon. It's one of the things that blew me away, because in British Columbia, by the end of December, salmon season's over. No more spawns. Well, here in the Olympic Peninsula, there's salmon or steelhead spawning in one or more rivers, streams, creeks every month of the year. And that is number one food for Sasquatches, especially now. They just walk out into the shallow part of a river, and during the nighttime, when the salmon are going upstream, they hide in the deep holes during the day so they don't get hit by predators. But at nighttime, they're like World War I soldiers going up the ladder across the barbed wire and across no man's land. Well, their no man's land is no fish area, is danger. Going up those shallow riffles from bank to bank, 4 inches of water, and those fish are just storming up there. Well, that's where Sasquatches are standing and reaching down and grabbing those fish. So I teach people that wherever there's seasonal foods in abundance, that's where you'll find your Sasquatches. So now that we're in late October, there's still a lot of apples and trees. So wherever there's abandoned farms and homesteads at the edge of the timber, salmon close by, elk close by. So, it's so on like Donkey Kong here on the Olympic Peninsula that my wife Peggy and I have come up with a rule. We will not investigate anywhere outside of 30 minutes drive from our house and the store, which are 2 blocks away, because it's that much activity out here.
yeah. I remember you saying that when we were up there and up at the fish at the fish farm. We saw quite a few.
Hatchery.
Yeah, we saw quite a few elk actually come down into the field down there, probably trying to escape hunters and Sasquatch, like you're saying. And we noticed all the salmon in the river. Some were dying, and some were
Yeah.
just trying to get back into the fish pens.
Yeah. No, it's on right now. We got cohos, which Americans call silvers, king salmon, which we Canadians call Chinook or spring salmon. Some of them are up to 60, 70 pounds, the big ones. That's enough food to feed a Sasquatch clan for a 24-hour period or longer. And with the monsoons hitting now, pretty soon the rivers are going to blow out, and it's going to be swans almost over anyway, and they're too deep to get salmon. So what happens is you got to look at your tide tables, because those Sasquatches are going to migrate out within their clan territories to shellfish beaches. On a big low tide, the buffets set all kinds of seafood for them to eat down there. And that's where we were a couple nights ago. But unfortunately, the tourists were there too, wanting to go on the big low tide with their headlamps to look at the tide pools. But now that tourist season's over, I'm going to have this whole beaches of the Olympic Peninsula where I investigate to myself and my clients.
That's perfect. That's awesome. I know that Tammy and I really want to go out with you for sure, and do all that and learn from you. You got a wealth of knowledge. So I suggest people get in contact with you, and also take a look at Sasquatch Island, because it's, you know, several videos that you have where you actually go out to the waters and show people what shellfish are available for the Sasquatch and what they're eating out there. It's pretty interesting.
Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, definitely. Sasquatch Island, Facebook, my group, join that. YouTube, Sasquatch Island, and website, sasquatchisland.com. Everything's in there, and the website in regards to my expeditions. But just remember that my schedule is your schedule, and what you want is what I'll deliver. Like, even with some people, for an additional $150, my wife and I will come to the store with you, put benches in front of me here where the shirts and hoodies are, and my wife will come out the back door here in the mask and fur regalia, and you'll see our Chonacha Sasquatch regalia, but you'll also see our Bokos, which a lot of other Indian tribes refer to as stick people or little people. Those are the little 3-4 foot tall, hairy bipedal creatures. My language, Kwakwakiwak people, it's Bokos, the keeper of the ghost world, but that's another episode. We can talk about that. But, can you imagine being in the store and seeing what you would see in a potlatch right here in front of Biggie? And it's pretty amazing. Like, when I did it for some people, 8 people last month, they were just floored. They said that was one of the best theatrical shows and knowledgeable, enthralling, entertaining, educational Sasquatch presentations they'd ever heard.
Yeah, your store is amazing. We had such a fun time there. I spent a lot of money, and I'll do it again. I'll tell you, because you've got amazing stuff there. Not only that, I mean, not just the different things that you have, but you also have, like, you can get these plastic things made up in Arizona, I believe it is, and then shipped up to you.
The owners of the store, Ken and Lori Hamilton, they started out by starting Source One Plastics in
That's
Alabama. And
that's
then
it.
they opened another one up the second one they have is in Phoenix, Arizona, where they live. And they make
Mhm.
everything plastic, plexiglass, acrylic. And, we got, street signs, Sasquatch Boulevard, Bigfoot Boulevard and Avenue, Sasquatch crossing signs like you see on the highway. We have about 20 different types, and fridge magnets, lanyards, you name it, we got it. And it's all made in our plastic shop. So this is a unique store. It's one off. You're never going to see this stuff anywhere else. But if you can't come here, SasquatchTheLegend.com. And I'll be over there at the till in the mornings putting stuff together, packaging it. And I always give half a dozen free stickers to every order, Sasquatch related.
Mhm.
And definitely check it out online. It's really unique. And of course, all of my native designs of Sasquatches, like this cup here,
Mm-hmm.
We got that in t-shirts and hoodies. I think I have 12 different designs now on different clothing and other merchandise. So it's pretty unique. And that's what I always think about. I walk to work, smoking my cigarette in the morning. It's 2 blocks away. I can't even finish it. And all of a sudden I come from behind that building across the street and I see the murals along the wall that me and Peggy painted. The big foot white looks like a cast up on the wall in the front, SasquatchLegend.com logo that I made, and I just think, I'm living a really cool part of my life. My tribe is the closest tribe connected to Sasquatch in all of North America, Sasquatch Island. I was a hunting guide for over 2 decades, commercial fisherman, travel the British Columbia coast, talking to other native tribes living out in communities you can only access by float plane, wheel plane in some cases, or boat. And I'd always ask them about, what do you know about Sasquatch, Bigfoot? And they would tell me. And then having worked up in the Northwest Territories for a year in Yellowknife and talking to those native people up there about Naga, traveling to Ohio for a conference and actually seeing a Sasquatch in Salt Fork State Park for 3 seconds, and traveling all over the place. I've been to Omaha Indian Reserve, Nebraska, Macy, Nebraska twice. And my God, there's Sitonga, their keeper of the medicine, their Sasquatches. It's on like Donkey Kong there. We come across them quite a bit. And for people wondering, yes, I do have videos. A 3-minute, 40-second video of a Sasquatch in daylight walking along the edge of the forest on a freshly harvested cornfield in Omaha Indian Reserve. I have a 16-minute, 40-second video that we captured with Adam Davies, a famous Sasquatch celebrity that does the conferences and TV shows, good friend of mine. We were on a yacht in coastal British Columbia, and he called me on deck. Tom, you better come look at this. And when I went out and grabbed the FLIR monoscope, there was a big heat signature walking along the beach, and we recorded it.
Yeah. Like I said, you have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to Sasquatch. Do you have any theories or any understanding of what these orbs are that people are seeing around Sasquatch?
Yeah, they're not around Sasquatch. The Sasquatch just happens to be around an Indian place where tragedy took place, whether it be smallpox, influenza, tuberculosis, mass killing through warfare. It's Lollylook, ghosts. That's what it is. When Adam Davies, we saw that Sasquatch, but 2 other people on the boat saw orbs at a certain part of that beach. And when I did some investigation, number one, it was where the orbs were, was an archaeological significant site, a midden, an area of human decomposed organic material and ash from their fires, um, shells from the shellfish they ate for thousands of years. And of course, when I dug deeper, it was a mass die off from smallpox and Spanish flu. So that's what the orbs are. To me, I've been, like I tell people when they come in the store at the till, I'm 5 feet from them. And I say, I've been that close to Sasquatch twice. And from the till to Biggie, probably 25 feet, I tell them I've been around Sasquatch 4 times to the mannequin of Biggie. And I've been around them over 30 times, knowing they were there, seeing them, smelling them, hearing them. And I've never had what I call the woo side of Sasquatchology, the orbs, the cloaking, mind speaking, portal jumping, running up a ladder and jumping in a UFO and taking off. In over 30 encounters with Sasquatch, that's never happened. So to me, I'm a critterist because that's what I've experienced. And, I hear a lot of the other stuff, but whatever, I haven't experienced it myself.
Right, right. And well, I consider you to be, one of the leads in this phenomena. And I'm listening to what you say because you've been on the ground and you've been there. A lot of other people will bring a lot of woo into this, just like you're saying. And it takes a lot to try to comprehend that, right? Especially from people that haven't necessarily experienced that, but have
I call it the
experienced.
mental. Yeah,
Yeah.
I call it the mental band-aid. So I was
Yeah.
in my out in my water Harley, my 18.5 foot Gregor aluminum with a 60 horse Merc, and I'm like, hey, good time to go get some cockles. It's a type of shellfish that looks like a scallop, but when you boil them, the meat looks like a prawn shrimp, big shrimp tail, and they taste so beautiful. They're a delicacy for humans and for the hairy humans, the Sasquatch, including Buckwus, the little one. So anyway, I go to this beach where my 26-foot trailer is. I'm not staying in that summer, and I got my painter line around my waist. I got my hip waders on, and I'm in about a foot of water, pulling my speedboat with the motor up, and I'm bending down, picking up cockles and putting them on the bow deck of my speedboat. All of a sudden, I looked over, and there was the longest leg black bear I ever seen. And all of a sudden, poof, I woke up in my speedboat. I was tied to a bull kelp forest, and it was foggy. It was dark. I was in a muscle shirt, shivering away on the deck of my boat. And I'm like, what the hell? What am I doing here? How did I get here? Last thing I remember was getting cockles. The cockles are still in the boat. What the hell happened? And then I untied myself from the kelp. You got to remember, I'm a bushman, so I got my flashlight, slow bells. I'm just going towards which I could smell the beach. And as I go through the fog and the darkness, poof, there's a beach. Go down along it, and all of a sudden there's a big spruce tree, all gnarly and ancient. And, oh, I know where I am. Okay, I got to adjust my compass. I go along the shore here and turn a little bit here. Okay, my float house should be right about there on that compass course. And as I'm slowly going through the fog, all of a sudden I can see my flashing amber light that I had on my dock. Oh, there's my float house, tied up, went to bed, woke up in the morning having my coffee going, what the hell happened last night? All I remember is getting those cockles, and I looked over to my right where the trailer point is, and there's that big long-legged black bear. And I don't know what happened in that 4 or 5 hour period when I woke up. So a lot of people say, Tom, go get hypnotized. They'll tell you what happened. Maybe if you had a big Sasquatch run in. I'm like, you know how many skeletons I got in my closet? I don't want no one recording that. I won't be getting hypnotized. But what I attribute it to is I got so the beep scared out of me by a Sasquatch that the mental band-aid kicked in and dealt and helped me deal with that trauma, that fear. And to people that all of a sudden see cloaking Sasquatches, orb turning Sasquatches, they mind speak to me and told me this. And oh, it ran up a ladder and jumped in the UFO and a shot of light and it was gone. I think that's the mental band-aid in their occurrence seeing a Sasquatch, because it's scary, real scary when you first couple times you see them.
Yeah. David Politis, like we were talking earlier, has mentioned some things like that. And um, the possibility that people go through such stress when they come in contact with a Sasquatch or something they can't understand. And maybe it's not, and maybe it's that we're not taught to understand these things, right? So our mind is trying to grasp what it is that we saw, and it doesn't have the words for the understanding. So it makes up something.
Yeah,
And that
that's
may
what I
be,
think it is.
yeah, what's going on.
And people overthink Sasquatch. All you got to do is go 3 or 4 days without a shower and smell your armpit, and that's gonna smells gonna tell you that you once had scent glands in your armpits. And like some primates, you could expel when you felt threatened or intimidated. And that's why we get stinky armpits when we don't bathe. It's a remnants of our scent glands. Well, Sasquatch, Biggie behind me, they still have that ability to excrete that stench from their armpit glands. And it's gagging. It's powerful. It's amazing how bad it stinks.
Right.
But when you come across a Sasquatch, you'll just catch a little tinge of it if it's upwind of you. You don't, but if he expels, you're going to be gagging. So when we look at the Sasquatch, everything about it, it's human. Looks exactly like us, except that it has a hairy body. But me, I'm a thoroughbred Indian. You can count my chest hairs on 2 fingers. My wife, 18 years ago, when we got together, Peggy and I, accused me of shaving my legs because I have no hair on my legs. I said, no, I'm a thoroughbred Indian. That's the way we are. So when you look at Sasquatch and Biggie right here, Toby Johnson, he made the like a biker beard. Sasquatches in the Pacific Northwest and in Omaha Indian Reserve don't have biker beards. They have like what's on your face, Lee. Just a little bit of stubbly, but a lot of skin showing. And of course, most of them, black skin. They're black. Or chimpanzee blotchy brown and black. And the teenager one I saw up close, he was like a chimpanzee blotchy brown with a little bit of black. And I think the older they get, the darker their skin gets. Why would their skin be dark? Well, number one, like a polar bear having black skin, it and penguins under their feathers to absorb the light rays from the little bit of sun to heat them up, and also for camouflage so that they not seen so easy. And that's why it's always a tree peeker Sasquatch, way deep in the foliage, hiding behind trees. You never see them out like Biggie behind me, very rarely. They're always blending in, hiding. And that's why one of the things we do investigating is we go down logging roads in areas that are prime Sasquatch areas with FLIRs out either window and the scopes going, but we're driving just a little bit faster than you can walk. And you'd be amazed what you see just inside those bushes with night vision apparatus, all kinds of animals. We haven't bingo to Sasquatch yet, but it's, gonna happen. We thought we did one night up in Greenwater, Washington, but it was an elk tree peeking at us. Me and Buddy, we thought for sure we bingoed a Sasquatch with that FLIR, but we didn't. So Sasquatches are what I believe our founding father and mother. There are Adam and Eve. Thousands of years ago in North America, Sasquatch was chipping rocks together and spark was made, and they created a fire. And the other Sasquatches, as I've learned with many Indian tribes, they have laws, very strict laws. They don't have tool use, fire use, weapons, permanent shelters, clothing. And for that, I believe that back in the day when that Sasquatch made fire, pretty soon after many generations, fire evolved where, well, now I'm losing my hair. And we got like semi-permanent housing now. And I'm losing my hair, so I got to have hides and clothing. And now I got to make tools which become weapons. And now, like the gods must be crazy from the 1980s, how an empty Coke bottle can disrupt a South African bush clan to a point of violence, hate, anger, envy, greed, jealousy erupted into that clan, which had never been there before because of an empty Coke bottle. The father, clan leader, said, I got to take this to the edge of the world to throw it back to the gods because they must be crazy for doing this. And that's what some Sasquatches did. They said, no, we're not going to have fire. We're not going to use tools. That's our laws. And we evolved from the Sasquatch to lose our hair, to get smaller, and, you know, Indian pigment. Look at me. I got some British and Scott apparently in my wood pile. That's why I'm not dark. But when you look at the black and white photos of the thoroughbred Indians just after contact, they're black skinned. They're very dark, including the Inuit. So I believe that we evolved to become the North American Indians and the Inuit, and then the European contact was made. But we come from the Sasquatches. Just that during our evolution as Indians, when we started losing our hair, we lost all of it, other than our head, our armpits, and down below. And maybe a little bit of whiskers. I can never grow what's on your face. It'd be impossible for me to get that much hair.
I've been growing this crop for 2 weeks. This one here, I have not shaved it yet, so I'm due. I'm due. Anyway, is there any good rules for us if we want to go investigate Sasquatch? Let's say we want to go out in the backwoods. Is there anything we should do to wash our clothes a certain way, or not to put deodorant on, or how should we prep ourselves for before we go and investigate?
So my wife Peggy's been gone for 3 weeks. She's helping. We all know we lost Scott Violet from Squatch America. Well, Peggy flew to Texas to help Hannah pack everything up, and then drove with Hannah from Texas to Idaho. Peggy will be flying out to Idaho tomorrow and get back to Kent for a few days, then come here. But knowing that she's not here, I've been this tomorrow morning will be my third bath with just salt, rubbing salt on my body, trying to flush all that oil off and deodorant and shampoo and soap smell. And then I have clothes that I have in a bag with spruce branches, hemlock branches, Douglas fir branches, and cedar boughs. And those clothes I washed in water without detergent 4 times and dried them outside in the air. And now I got them in a bag with that stuff. So tomorrow morning, after I do a few things, I'm going to go investigating, and my body will be scent neutral. It'll be just my personal odor, and the clothing I wear will be smelling like the forest. And first thing I do when I get out of the vehicle, and constantly while I'm going, is checking my windage, making sure I'm always into the wind, never with the wind behind me. And I'm going to go out there and just like a Sasquatch, because I lived in bush for so many years and months sometimes without seeing other humans, I'll be tree peeking, crawling, spider crawling behind logs, popping up and looking, moving the branches slowly, just like Sasquatch does. And hopefully I'll bingo him. And, hopefully I'll catch him having his daytime snooze 100, 200 yards from a riverbank that has shallow riffles where he fed that night. But I'm going to look for a tit, like a hill, like a female breast, because if it's a clan or even one or two, the Sasquatches always sleep up on the nipple at daytime. That way they have 360-degree observance with eyes, ears, nose, and evacuation 360 degrees. And they also hold the high ground. So always look for that little mount, little hill that looks like a firm female tit. And that's where it'll be up on the nipple. But if they're a clan, you better be stealthy going up that hill, because once that scout sees you, or vocalization or mimic of an animal, or what I've seen Sasquatches do as I was playing bush chess with them, fighter planes with them, and I got behind a Sasquatch and I could see the black, oily hair, and I'm downwind from him, and I'm thinking, okay, I got you, buddy. And all of a sudden, I seen it look to the left, to the right. As it looked to the right, it was licking its nose, because I'll do that, wet my fingers and stick them in my nose to get my nose hairs wet. And you can absorb and just bring in that odor deeper. And when I looked at that Sasquatch licking his nose, looking for me, and then all of a sudden he looked to the left and he looked up on a tree and he shuddered. And it reminded me of a cat when it gets up and hackles, or a raccoon or a dog. Their muscles and skin makes the hair move, usually sticking straight up. But that Sasquatch was almost like a vibration, and that oily black hair shuddered. And then I looked, and up in the tree was a Sasquatch looking for me. And that's when I went, son of a bitch. That's how they communicate without sound. It's body language. Just like all Indians have different sign language. I have it with my tribe members, and it's been like that for thousands of years. You can go look in books or in the internet and see the different sign language body motions that anthropologists or historians recorded about the Indians during contact and just afterwards. So that's how they were doing their thing. But after I saw these two Sasquatches doing that, I just, yo, Weeksess, hello, how you doing? I don't know who you are. Sasquatch turned and he jumped and took off. That one jumped down, and you hear him crash, and they both took off. And I just thought, checkmate, I got you guys. And that was my entertainment when I lived in the bush. I was hunting or fishing, but from time to time, if I knew a Sasquatch was around, it was time to do the spider crawl and see if I can get close to them. And I've bingoed them 3 times like that. But you got to remember, I was living out in bush. I didn't have a camera. The cell phones weren't invented back then. I had a flip phone, but never had bars, so I'd bring it with me.
Right, right. Well, that's cool. I've had a couple encounters myself, but I've never seen one in the flesh. Just happenstance in the bush making a racket, or accosting the tent that I was in, or that sort of thing. So I've never been smart enough to sneak up on one.
Out here, we've heard vocalizations, tree knocks, Um, can't believe how many tree structures there are here. And what it is when he's a good friend of mine now, Steve, but he came to the store a year ago, July, and introduced himself. Told me he was a rafting guide going down the Ho and other rivers with people doing a safari. So he goes, hearing things. My boss does sports fishing charters every day, and here's a text. And when I read the text, it was Steve. There's a monster up above on those cliffs, and it's mad, breaking things, banging things. So I cut the line off where I was fishing with my clients and went downstream further. So Steve and I went down 2 days in a row, upper Ho, then the lower Ho drift on Sunday. But the first drift, when we're going down, I'm like, hey, look, tree structure. You see a teepee structure like that. And he goes, geez, I'm coming down here. I don't know how many times. I've never noticed that one. So we're going pretty fast. So I didn't really do a survey recon of it. But what I did, it was a shallow riffle. So at nighttime, the fish are going up there. And a Sasquatch built that teepee structure. And then he grabbed a live tree, he pulled it into his teepee structure on a lean, and he broke it at his height, 8'6", when I measured the ground to the break. And then he put more timber on top of it. So what it is if another Sasquatch comes out of the bush or downstream, upstream, and goes, "Oh, look, good shallow area. I'm gonna fish here tonight." What's he do? Looks around and does recon. Ah, shit. There's a teepee structure. I better go over and check it out. Oh, it's a little bit bigger than me. I think I know who's fishing here. Well, he's got attitude. He's grumpy. I better move downstream and go find another place. But when we did the second day's drift, we found an area with an oxbow turn that they cleared all of the uh, bushes out of and logged by the looks of it. But there's 3 teepee structures on there. And Steve asked me what that was. And I said, well, look around. See all the high ground? If you're up in the high ground and you can see through the timber, or you Sasquatch go up a tree to look down, you can see those 3 teepee structures. And what that's telling you is it's a boundary marker between the lower Ho Sasquatch clan and the mid upper river clan. So they know that that's our boundary marker, because every Indian tribe in North America had harvest areas and rights and title to it. My tribe, if someone went into my shellfish bed or my seaweed picking area, my fishing area, I could kill them. And back according to our law, there would be no retaliation because they were stealing my food, my family's food. So the Sasquatches, because they're the other tribe, they're Indians, they still adhere to the old way. So if you want to know about your Sasquatches in your given area in Sasquatch Island, then what you do is you reach out to the anthropological and the books and the internet, the museums, the archives about the local Indian tribe that lived there. You will find out what laws they had, what seasonal migrations, where their harvest abundant seasonal food areas were. But most of all, you'll get to understand that when you read more and more about the different Indian tribes, every one of them have a taboo for the males to be around birthing or menstrual blood. Even when I was a grizzly bear hunting guide, I remember coming into Vancouver Island, had a few days off, and went straight to my girlfriend's house, and she's like, "Oh, you might not want to be here, Tom. It's my monthly." I'm like, "Okay, see you." Now I'm gonna say, "You hotel room, nightclubs, and strip joints. I'm cool. I'm gonna have fun. No girlfriend on this weekend," because she knew that I couldn't be around females when they're menstruating because of me being a grizzly bear hunting guide. If I got that taboo and contaminated with that blood, then I could get killed by a grizzly bear and be a steaming turd or two in the forest over the next few days. So I have to be crispy. That's why I wouldn't be around back in that day around my girlfriend if she was on her monthly. So when you see those teepee structures, they don't stop the wind, they don't stop the rain and snow, they don't retain body heat, and you see these stupid men going in there and lying in there. Oh, look, I'm in a Sasquatch tree structure. I'm just saying, oh, you idiot. You better just sell your guns now. You're never going to get an animal hunting because you just got contaminated with the taboo of a woman's birthing hut or a menstrual hut. So if I'm a male Sasquatch and I'm like Biggie, I'm just walking through the forest and all of a sudden I go, there's the teepee structure. I can see it on windage. Okay, I got to go upwind around it and then continue on. I can't go near that female right now because she's in blood. So that's what most of those A-frames are that don't retain heat. And so for you men that are hunters, don't go near them. Like I will never go into one of those. I stay like 10 yards away from them. I don't even want to be downwind on them to contaminate up. And if there's a Sasquatch watching you and all of a sudden they see you go in there and you're a Sasquatch researcher, because there's no such thing as a Sasquatch researcher until you get your cover with the Sasquatch on the cover of National Geographic, like Diane Fossey and Jane Goodall, with a big editorial, and then you become a researcher. Everyone else is like me, stumbling, bumbling investigators. But the ones that call themselves researchers that crawl in the creepy structures, Sasquatch watching them. All of a sudden, the Sasquatch absorbs your smell, knows you like a fingerprint for the police. And the next time you're out there investigating Sasquatch, oh, it's that foolish male hairless one, crawls in woman's blood huts. And I'm going to get the hell out of here. I don't want to be near that contaminated fool. So
Yeah.
don't go in treepy structures if you're a male.
Right. And you were saying that some of them do that because of how tall they are and they want to show another male in the area how big they are.
Yeah, it's one of the things I've done in my investigating. I always have a tape measure for footprints and different things. But I finally one day sitting on the toilet, I had an epiphany. I'm like, tree breaks. I found a tree break and it was flared like a hand. And it was about 6 feet off the ground. And it looked like a hand, the broken uh, maple sapling. But then beside it, some 6 feet away, was a tree break. So I went there and I measured it, 8'7". And I did that numerous other places, getting in 6'6", 8'8", and in between those regions. So what the Sasquatch is doing, like a grizzly bear and black bear will roll a log to a tree and reach up and scratch the bark and then get down and push the log out of the way. And then he pees and poops. What he's telling all the other bears is, I can reach that high. That's how big I am, even though he BS'd and stood on a 3 foot thick chunk of wood to get way up there. Grizzly bears will just reach as far as they can and rake. So and pee and poo to tell other grizzly bears, that's how big I am. Do you really want to hang around this turf of mine? And oh, my battery's running low. But um,
Well, that's okay. We're about 4 minutes from closing out the show.
that's all right. I didn't have the switch on the power bar on. So that's what Sasquatches do. So always have your tape measure and take pictures. If you see that splay or a A-frame or whatever, and in the teepee structure, that's a marker, then you look for that break and measure it. And that will tell you how big the Sasquatch is around where you're investigating.
That's definitely cool. So, Tom, if people want to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you?
Come to the store, buy a lot of stuff, grab a basket. SasquatchLegend.com is the store. But me, I'm SasquatchIsland.com it. Facebook group, join it. YouTube channel, watch it. You're going to see some pretty amazing videos. And Biggie and I here, we do TikTok. So Sasquatch Island on TikTok. My email is in the website, tom.sewid@gmail.com. And the other one is phone me on a cell. If you want to try to convert me to woo-woo, don't bother. I'll just hang up. But if you want to call and ask something or you have a question, feel free to call me. I'm working until 6 o'clock PST time, Pacific Standard Time. I have Saturday and Sundays off. Evening, I'm sitting in front of TV watching Blue Jays kick butt tonight. And 11-4 last I checked. But anyway, I like my sports, but I don't mind turning the volume down and answering your questions if you have a few. And definitely booking an expedition with me. And for people listening, if you can't afford booking me to come here to Forks or to Vancouver Island, where I can meet you as well, pass your hat around to your friends and fellow Sasquatch enthusiasts in your state or province or wherever. And doesn't cost much for me to get to SeaTac Airport with your return flight. Fly me out there. I do charge a day rate, and we'll go out investigating, and I'll teach you guys everything I can so that you can have a better chance of having a close encounter of the hairy kind.
Well, thank you, sir, for coming on the show tonight. And I cannot wait to hear about your stories next month and what's going on in the Olympics. And definitely would love to hear about the smaller Sasquatch that live in the bush too.
Well, if we do it, what we'll do is we'll get Peggy to perform the Bakwus dance,
Oh yeah,
and she'll do the Chonakwa dance as well. And I was actually thinking, if I want to hear from the viewers. If you want to see me bring my culture involved, I'll stand here with, and you'll see the picture that Leo put up here on the video. But you'll see my tunic with the Sasquatch design, front and back, cedar bark headpiece, abalone frontlet, white ermine skin, grizzly claw necklace from one of the grizzlies I harvested. And I'll do the native intro and everything. I can even have full button blanket and aprons on explaining the crests, and then, get into more of what the Chonakwa Sasquatch means to my tribe, which is the highest ranked crest. And
yep.
you'd be amazed, everything. And, maybe we'll share that for the cultural part next episode.
There you go, sir. Well, I thank you very much for being on the show, and we have to leave now. So hold on one second.